Freemasonry is one of the oldest and largest fraternal organizations in history. Members claim that the craft is dedicated to charity, morality, and service to the community. However, behind the public work of Masons are symbols and secret rituals that play an important role in their fellowship. There are costumes with ceremonies that are allegoric dramas. But what does it all mean? Belief in a divine being is required in order to be included among their ranks. However, contrary to what most think, Freemasonry is not something inspired by the God of the Bible. Instead, it can be traced to mystic beliefs and rituals dating back to ancient Egypt, Greece, and Syria. To find out more about the religion of Freemasonry, stay tuned. Greetings from Quest for Truth, a program about the world today and its future. Freemasonry has a long history in the countries of Scotland, England, and America. There are historic buildings and symbols throughout the land that bear the mark of the Masonic order. While modern Freemasonry consists of a continental branch that has removed some or all of the original restrictions, the standard and traditional Masons insist that religious books be included in a functioning lodge, and it is required, in fact, that every member is a man who professes belief in a supernatural supreme being. Numerous people of prominence are documented to have been associated with Freemasonry. Royalty of Scotland and England, presidents and statesmen, successful inventors, and there are others of prominence. Even though many highly regarded men have been members of the fraternity, and they may have had important roles with positive aspects of their contribution to society, they were not all privy to the real teachings of the Masonic order, which actually contradict the precepts of the Bible. The ceremonies and symbols used by Freemasons have long been a fraternal secret. In fact, Masons are still considered to be a secretive society, even though several books show what goes on behind closed doors. Even most Masons have no idea what everything they do represents that have no relationship to the Bible. And so let's consider some of the details. Candidates of standard and traditional Freemasonry are required to profess a belief in one God. The prerequisite may appear harmonious with the Bible, but the craft fosters belief in any God that someone may choose. An official Freemason's guide published in 1947 states, "Monotheism is the sole dogma of Freemasonry. Belief in one God is required of every initiate, but his conception of the Supreme Being is left to his own interpretation. Freemasonry is not concerned with theological distinctions. This is the basis of our universality." A fundamental condition for membership is accompanied by tolerance of anyone's idea of who and what God is. In other words, any deity will do. Far from being harmless, this allowance actually allows for the worship of false gods. Masonic author Alan E. Roberts explains, "You have learned that Freemasonry calls God the great architect of the universe. This is the Freemason's special name for God because he is universal. He belongs to all men regardless of their religious persuasion. All wise men acknowledge his authority. In his private devotions, a Mason will pray to Jehovah, Mohammed, Allah, Jesus, or the deity of his choice. This inclusive approach of the Masons was also stated in the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, written by one of their most respected members. "Be assured," says Godfrey Higgins, "that God is equally present with the pious Hindu in the temple, the Jew in the synagogue, the Mohammedan in the mosque, and the Christian in the church." The problem with this approach is that it is contrary to what the true God of the Bible says. Why, the first commandment states, "I am the eternal your God. You shall have no other gods before me." Despite what is clearly stated in the Bible, the introduction to Freemasonry states that Freemasonry opens the great light upon her altar, not as one book of one faith, but as all books of all faiths. The belief that God is found in all religions is diametrically opposed to what the only supreme being actually says. Why, he inspired a single volume that unequivocally proclaims, "I am the eternal, and there is no other. There is no God besides me." The Son of God confirmed this truth during his ministry, making it clear that all of the various religions are not ways in which people worship the same God. Jesus said, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven." The will of God is that we obey and worship only him. But that is diametrically opposed to the Masonic approach, which disregards the first and most valuable precept in the Bible, and that alone makes the standards of that organization apostate. But there is much about the craft that is contrary to the teaching of Christianity. Membership in the order requires a variety of rites that are connected to the ancient worship of false gods. In the official encyclopedia written by Albert Mackey, it explains how the craft reaches back through time, adopting symbols and rituals used in Egyptian and Syrian mystery religions. The levels of Masons, called degrees, illustrate these mysteries. Notice the connection that they make in the legend of Hiram Abiff, found in the 3rd degree ceremony. Thus, in the Egyptian mysteries of Osiris, the image of a dead man was borne in an arga, ark, or coffin by a procession of initiates, and this enclosure in the coffin or internment of the body was called the aphonism, or disappearance, and the lamentation for him formed the first part of the mysteries. On the 3rd day after the internment, the priests and initiates carried the coffin, in which was also a golden vessel, down to the river Nile. Into the vessel they poured water from the river, and then with a cry of, "We have found him, let us rejoice," they declared that the dead Osiris, who had descended into Hades, had returned from thence and was restored again to life, and the rejoicings which ensued constituted the second part of the mysteries. The analogy between this and the legend of Freemasonry must be at once apparent. Now, just such a legend, everywhere differing in particulars, but everywhere coinciding with the general character, is to be found in all the old religions, in sun worship, in tree worship, in animal worship. And it is this legend, and this legend alone, that connects speculative Freemasonry with the ancient mysteries of Greece, of Syria, and of Egypt. We see it is admitted that the legend of the Mason 3rd degree, carried out in a ritual performed as they progress in their craft, is directly related to ancient pagan rites. Borrowed from ancient mystery religion, this ceremony reflects heretical forms of veneration for false gods, and in this case, Osiris, an Egyptian god of the dead and the afterlife. The true God forbids these kinds of ceremonies. Why, the Almighty warned ancient Israel, and he warns us today with these words. "Observe and obey all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you and your children after you forever. Do not inquire after their gods, saying, 'How did these nations serve their gods? I also will do likewise.' You shall not worship the eternal your God in that way. For every abomination to the eternal which he hates, they have done to their gods. Whatever I command you, be careful to observe it. You shall not add to it, nor take away from it. Some may think that Freemasons are not venerating pagan gods and that such rituals are harmless. But the acceptance of symbols and ceremonies used by pagans is more threatening than most Masons realize. By accepting alternative methods of veneration, it is the same as denying what the Word of God says. Think about it. Those who reject what God says, therefore also deny that He is God. Why, the Apostle Paul wrote, "It is not possible for you at the same time to take the cup of the Lord and the cup of evil spirits. You may not take part in the table of the Lord and the table of evil spirits." We cannot mix and match the ways of God with ways of the heathen. God does not accept the worship of Osiris, Buddha, Islam, or anything contrary to the reverence dictated in the Bible. The fundamental teachings of Freemasonry actually propagate heresy and thereby break God's commandments. But this is not all. There is much more. And if you would like to know more about this subject, Quest for Truth is offering a free booklet. The Eternal Church of God produces a variety of literature to help people understand the truth about many topics. Today we are featuring the booklet titled The Truth About Freemasonry. This booklet discusses everything mentioned in this program and much more. All of the literature we produce is offered as a free service in the public interest. There will be no undesired follow-up. You may visit our website at eternalcog.org to read or request any of our material, or stay tuned, and at the end of this program we will show you how to receive a free copy of The Truth About Freemasonry. One of the most notable symbols of Freemasonry is the bold and prominent letter G that sits on top of an architect compass. Masons claim that the symbol reflects the grand designer, great architect, or grand geometrician of the universe. A century-old Freemason publication states, "Even a stranger entering a Masonic lodge room must be struck by a mysterious letter which hangs over the chair of the master in the east. No one need tell him its meaning. It is a letter of light and tells its own story." In the Egyptian mysteries, it was the solar Ra, symbol of the spiritual sun shining upon the mortal path. A lodge's highest official sits in a chair in the eastern section of their local building. Masons are instructed to refer to this man as the worshipful master who presides over meetings as a figurative light to all while he sits under the letter G. The bulletin also states, "A lodge of Masons is a house of light. Symbolically, it has no roof but the sky, open to all the light of nature and of grace. As the sun rises in the east to open and rule the day, so the master rises in the east to open and guide the lodge in its labor." The presumptuous titles of the man in charge of individual lodges should make one pause. But there is more borrowed from ancient mysteries, such as the Egyptian all-seeing eye. This illustration of a single human eye is surrounded by radiating beams of light. Said to portray the watchfulness of a supreme being, the eye first appeared on the walls of temples and tombs in Egypt. Mackey explained the origin of this symbol. On the same principle, the Egyptians represented Osiris, their chief deity, by the symbol of an open eye, and placed this hieroglyphic of him in all their temples. The all-seeing eye may then be considered as a symbol of God, manifesting His omnipresence, His guardian and preserving character. Many have claimed that this religious symbol is to represent the God of the Bible, but it is admitted that the symbol did not come from the Bible. Why, the emblem actually portrays the Egyptian false god of Osiris, or Horus. J.C. Cooper explained in his book regarding traditional symbols, known as the Eye of Horus, or Uchat Eye, it is associated with both the Egyptian god Horus and his father Osiris. The all-seeing eye is an idol. It represents a false god that the Bible condemns. Consider that the true God rescued his people out of Egypt for the express purpose of removing them from the influence of false gods that were found throughout that empire. He then commanded his people never to use any symbols to represent him. This is the foundation of the third commandment. As God warned, each of you throw away the abominations which are before your eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am the eternal your God. Masonic lodges have many other pagan symbols, such as heavenly bodies of the sun and moon, stars and angels. These symbols are used ritualistically and religiously. And Christians should not participate in gatherings where such emblems exist. The great God of the Bible confirmed this with the following words: "Take careful heed to yourselves, for you saw no form when the Eternal spoke to you at Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you act corruptly and make for yourselves a carved image in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any animal that is on the earth, or the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, or the likeness of any fish that is in the water beneath the earth. And take heed, lest you lift your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the host of heaven, you feel driven to worship them and serve them." God's purpose for not manifesting himself to Israel was to discourage them from making anything to portray him. This shows us that we are not to create symbols to represent God. When we do, that becomes an idol, and it violates the third commandment. There are numerous images used by Freemasonry that are deeply concerning. Nearly all of them violate the Scriptures. Whether Masons know it or not, they have been led to a temple where such representations are a part of a type of behavior that does not show respect to God the way that he tells us to. Why, Christ said that God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Freemasonry is not about declaring the truth. Accordingly, both Jew and Christian should not join a fraternity that fosters the use of false religious symbols. Something else to consider is the fact that the Bible is the most significant set of documents ever written. It was recorded by a minimum of 40 authors, spanning thousands of years, and it carries with it a unity of ethics that prove one majestic mind inspired its contents. It is God's manual for righteousness given to mankind as a manual for life. But the Bible is not the pinnacle of truth and light in the halls of Freemasons. To them, any book will do because it's only symbolic. Their official encyclopedia states, "The Bible is used among Freemasons as a symbol of the will of God, however it may be expressed. Therefore, whatever to any people expresses that will may be used as a substitute for the Bible in a Masonic lodge. Thus, in a lodge consisting entirely of Jews, the Old Testament alone may be placed upon the altar, and Turkish Freemasons make use of the Quran. Whether it be the Gospels to the Christian, the Pentateuch to the Israelite, the Quran to the Muslim, or Vedas to the Brahmin. It everywhere Masonically conveys the same idea, that of the symbolism of the divine will revealed to man." According to Masonic doctrine, God's word alone is not comprised of divinely inspired law, accurate prophecy, and historical writings from divinely chosen people. The Masonic order actually believes that the Bible is only symbolic of these things. They say that any professed holy book is just as legitimate. Such a perspective explains their acceptance of false gods and pagan rites. To some Masons, the Bible is considered as framework for their rituals. To others, it's the Quran, and to others, the Vedas. But such thoughts directly violate the Scriptures. Because of this, Masons are in direct conflict with the Bible and the God of it. To expound on this, consider the philosophy of a Canadian astrologer, a mystic, an author, and a Freemason who wrote, "The true Mason is not creed-bound. He realizes with the divine illumination of his lodge that as a true Mason, his religion must be universal. Christ, Buddha, or Mohammed, the name means little, for he recognizes only the light and not the bearer. He worships at every shrine, bows before every altar, whether in a temple, mosque, or cathedral, realizing with his truer understanding the oneness of all spiritual truth. They know that all religions are but one story told in diverse ways for people whose ideals differ, but whose great purpose is in harmony with Masonic ideals. The problem with this kind of thinking and this broad acceptance of any god or religion is that they all point in the same direction, and it's this. It's a religion that does not align with what the true God says. It doesn't harmonize with the only holy book that can be trusted to dictate religious values. But this truth is not made known to the various lodges around the world. In fact, the truth behind their use of symbols and ceremonies is secretive. It is noted by high-ranking Freemasons that the knowledge about the meaning of their ways is intentionally kept from lay members. Freemasonry scholar Albert Pike wrote, "Masonry, like all the religions, all the mysteries, Hermeticism, and alchemy, conceals its secrets from all except the adepts and sages, or the elect, and uses false explanations and misinterpretations of its symbols to mislead those who deserve only to be misled, to conceal the truth, which it calls light, from them, and to draw them away from it. Truth is not for those who are unworthy or unable to receive it or would pervert it." For this reason, Freemasonry offers varying levels of knowledge referred to as degrees that range from the first degree, an entered apprentice, to the highest level of 33rd degree Mason. Each initiate is expected to progress, but few have an understanding that 33 degree Masons would consider to be complete. Those in the Blue Lodge who attain the 3rd degree have little understanding of the true meaning of the rituals and symbols. This keeps their members in the dark and provides incentive to continue the craft so that they might know more. As Pike continued, "The blue degrees are but the outer court or portico of the temple. Part of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. Their true explication is reserved for the adepts, the princes of Masonry. Masonry is the veritable sphinx, buried to the head in the sands heaped round it by the ages." Only by reading the writings of longtime members with higher degrees or articles by Masonic historians can you understand that the order actually honors ancient mystery religions. Even so, most of those who might become masters of the craft are still unable to put all of their mysterious pieces of the puzzle together, and this is intentional. But defining fathers of that craft explain there is a direct connection between Freemasonry and the rites and beliefs of pagans. Notice Albert Mackey's definition of paganism, a general appellation for the religious worship of the whole human race, except that portion which has embraced Christianity, Judaism, or Mohammedanism. Its interest to the Masonic student arises from the fact that its principal development was the ancient mythology in whose traditions and mysteries are to be found many interesting analogies with the Masonic system. Albert Mackey goes on to explain that the teachings and symbols of ancient mythology and mysticism were passed down through secret societies of the Middle Ages and adopted by the Masonic order. Freemasonry retains beliefs of Gnostics, rites of Templars, the Illuminati, Mithraism, the Kabbalah, and much more. The origin of Masonic philosophies and symbols is a mixture of Bible verses and pagan myths, and yet the craft remains overwhelmingly pagan. The true meaning of their symbols, names, and ceremonies is hidden, and it's difficult to decipher without research or instruction from those of higher degree. But when we do the research, we find more and more information showing us that Freemasonry falls into the category of false religion. Even though most would say that Freemasonry is not a religion, notice what one of their most knowledgeable scholars, Albert Mackey, a 33-degree Grand Lecturer and Grand Secretary, wrote this. Look at its ancient landmarks, its sublime ceremonies, its profound symbols and allegories, all inculcating religious doctrine, commanding religious observance, and teaching religious truth. And who can deny that it is eminently a religious institution? Freemasonry is inherently a religion that allows for the worship of various gods, just like paganism does. Another 33-degree Grand Commander of Freemasonry wrote in-depth material about the craft, saying, "Every Masonic lodge is a temple of religion, and its teachings are instruction in religion." Mackey also said that it is not Judaism, and it's not Christianity. This being the case, Freemasonry can only be a false religion, and there is much more to know about the fraternity. If you would like to know more, Quest for Truth is offering a free booklet. The Eternal Church of God produces a variety of literature to help people understand the truth about many secular and biblical topics. Today we are featuring the booklet titled The Truth About Freemasonry. This booklet discusses everything mentioned in this program and much, much more. All of the literature we produce is offered as a free service in the public interest. There will be no undesired follow-up. You may visit our website at eternalcog.org to read or request this booklet, or stay tuned, and in just a few moments we will show you how to receive a free copy of The Truth About Freemasonry. Until next time, this is Terry Moore encouraging all of you to continue your quest for truth.
The day or hour when the end shall come to pass. Not the angels that dwell in heaven, only the Father from above. No one knows the day or hour when the end shall